And this is Kerbal Space Program. And last episode, Dell's Astronautics had a little bit of a disaster with its satellite launch. In going from our low orbit to our high orbit, the satellite exploded. And I've had a look at the video and had a check also of the that satellite in the sandbox mode, and it worked fine. There was no particular reason. Now the only thing I see is we had a patch update because we're now running 1.03, I think, so maybe there was some physics in there, or it was what I call the space kraken. We met a monster in space and it grabbed our ship and blew it apart. So I didn't see any reason why our basic satellite, if we load it up here, should not have worked. So if we go and find our Sat1, where is our Satellite 1? Satellite Launcher 1, load. So yeah, I don't see any particular reason at this time why this should not have worked. Now the only one thing I'm going to do is, I've got a feeling that we haven't got maybe enough fuel. Looking at some of the bits, I think I need a little bit more delta V in the final stage as a possibility. So I am going to increase the fuel in this stage. We need about 600 delta V additional. Yeah, okay, that's going to be a bit better. Just to make sure we get that correct apoapsis and everything on this mission. So we're going to go for that. It's just giving us a little bit more to help get us into space. So the first stage is going to be getting us roughly into an orbit, a local orbit, and then we're going to need about, I'm thinking about 500, 600 meters a second delta V to get us into the final orbit that's needed for the actual satellite. So okay, yeah, so as I say, I didn't see any particular reason. I can only put it down to potentially a glitch, a physics update, some sort of physics problem. So we're going to give this another go, and we're going to see what we can do. We're going to, first of all though, before we launch that, let's just save that and come out. We're going to check this contract and just check the see if we can do it in the, bear with me a second while we get into the tracking station. There we go. Now we're not, so now we can see where this axis is. So it's almost up with MUN, this particular orbit. That's why I'm guessing we're going to need about 600 delta V, because a MUN orbit is normally around 600 to get into a MUN orbit, but that's using it capturing with the MUN, so 600 for this should be about fine. So we've got to put our satellite in orbit with that. Okay, so we're going to do the same again. We're going to make sure that our station is roughly ready to be in orbit. Now we have our own little orbiting satellite now, which was a what can we say? Oops. So there's our spot at the moment. Are we still a little bit behind? We're a little bit behind. We're about quarter of a day, close to it, but quarter of a day. So we're going to get onto the launch pad and get our satellite ready for a launch. So let's just get here. That looks correct. Yep. And we're going to go for a launch maneuver. Oh, actually this is the wrong satellite. I've just remembered, we didn't use this one, we used satellite HO. Let's go and get the right one for a second. Just remembered, this was purely for our low orbit items. So let's just recover these items because we don't need that, and we just recover it. Right, recover. Done. Okay, so we need a high orbit satellite which already has the additional fuel required. So let's just go and find that one. So we should have satellite HO. There we go. So that's our thing, which I think that may actually now be too much, but we'll see. Right? How much is in that stage? Yeah, there's 4,000 delta V actually in that. So that's more than enough, I think, to get us into orbit. I'm actually thinking now, let's see if we can take that out there. Oops, let's try and zoom in. What I'm going to do is take that and reduce that down to the next one there. There we go. So we've got 4,200 to get us into orbit. We've still got more than enough there, I think, delta V to get us into orbit and to get us into the high orbit. If anything, actually that previous one we had might well have been adequate, but this one will definitely get, the first stage will definitely get us into the orbital area, which is most probably what we wanted. So we've got 4,200 to get stable, say 100-kilometer orbit. So let's save that one. And we've got 7,000, which is more than enough. So, you know, that last one has got 2,800. We could do lots of changes with that. But if, you know, shouldn't run out of delta V at all. As I say, I'm sure I looked it up and it's about 600 we would need to change ourselves into an orbit. So, procedure, once again, is we're going to go for a northern burn. We're first of all going to check where we are now to compare to where our orbit is, and we're going to wait and just do a bit of time acceleration. We can see the orbits, the run changing. We need to get ourselves lined up with where we want to. Now we have to allow a little bit for the axis, so we want to do it a little bit before that gets into line. Right, let's not go over the top because we're moving with it. I think that should be about it. Yeah, okay, so that's about perfect. So we're now going to take off into our northern orbit as quickly as we can. So, staging already. Yeah, with parachutes on those to recover. Parachute on that stage to recover. That one there and there could be put together just to simplify things. So brakes and parachutes at the same time. Yep, that just simplifies that. That's because I split that up. Right, SAS on, power on full. We will reduce the throttle as this goes up just to keep the speed reasonable. But 3, 2, 1, giving a slight northern inclination straight away. There we go, should be going to the north a little bit. Unfortunately, we'll put this on orbit already. The thing will throttle down a little bit. You can see the heat building up. We've got a big 300 speed. Don't really want to go above that 300 if I can help it. So just taking the liquid rocket down a little bit. We're at 10,000, going to about a 10-degree angle here. Don't take it actually to 15, 20 degree angle at 10. Right, first stage done, that's gone away. Right, at 20,000 feet, right, we're going to go up to full speed now. At 20,000 we'll go to our 45 degree. Going to 45 degrees. Trying to get that so at 45 degrees on a northerly bearing. There we go, that's good. Our periaps is at 40-odd thousand, which is good. Once it gets to about 100,000, we'll cut throttle and start working with our apoapsis. prograde marker is coming in quite nicely. 60,000, so we're almost orbital. Right, keeping level with our prograde marker now. 70,000. Slightly ahead of it. 88, pulling the speed down a little bit, and just to keep that a little easier. That's high enough. 99,000. That's close enough for what we need here. Okay, so let's see how far our angle is a little off. As you can see, we ideally need to be an inclination of about 90 degrees. Our first stage is to get into about 100 kilometer general orbit. So we're going to go into a low orbit first on this item. Maybe try and pull our inclination over a little bit at the same time. And we're going to do that at our apoapsis. So what we're going to do is here is we haven't got any control because we don't have gimbal controls at this moment. We're going to have to do it with engine minimally on to give us some control. So we're going to go that way, and we're going to go this way a bit. Off. Whoops, that's a little too much. Need to stabilize. Right, 42 seconds to apoapsis. Okay, pulling up on our retrograde. It's giving a slight slow burn. Right, going to give it full burn now. Try and bring our periapsis up is our key here without pulling up the apoapsis too high. Inclination is 88 degrees. That's on the right hand side, looking at the inclination at the same time. Trying to keep everything that's looking good on our inclination of 90 degrees. So putting that back onto the proper that marker there. We'll give it a little bit final angle later on once we've got to modify all of those factors. Give it a little bit of a twist, get us back. Right, that stage is now done. Now we were getting some heat markers on there, so obviously they may have done something with heat now. Right, let's check our apoapsis heights and that, because that seems to have really changed our heights. Are we in a... Yes, we are. Okay, so we've started that burn in the opposite direction. Okay, now what we're going to do now is just try and get our apoapsis, at this time we're just going to try and get our apoapsis out to that correct value, and I'll watch out for heat. So we're going to just pull that down to there, our retrograde marker. I'll just bring around our roll a little bit. There we go. Certainly it's not as easy to control in this newest version. We seem to have some changes in the flight model or such, I guess. Right, let's just give ourselves a little bit of a burn here. Now we're looking at we go to this view, we're looking at getting out to 9,390 was our first point. So we're just trying to get that out as close as we can to that figure. 9,390. Getting close. There we go. Ooh, 9,000. Okay, 9,026. That's good at the moment. Let's see if I can. Oh, a little too far actually. Right, that's my own fault there. Okay, but that's not too bad. We can actually, let's just see if I can get that with a retrograde, a very minor retrograde. Let's see if we can, it's better to do it now here and get that as close as I can to that 390 whilst we're here. Oh, that's, I think, is quite good. 9,000, so between 9,080 and 9390, so 9391. Okay, that's I got my buttons wrong. Okay, I'm going to try that one more time. Let's see how close these really are. Okay, we'll go with that for the moment. Now the other bit, we can see that it's not quite on line with that there, so we would need to burn towards our, I'll get this right, where we are now, we need to burn normal, because our inclinations, that's okay. We've got a 90-degree inclination, so I think we're quite good in there. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to just get our apsis and periapsis sorted first. Let's turn that off. Right, now a couple of things we need to just make sure that we're in the sun. So where is the sun? Yes, making sure that our we're getting electricity, which we are. So that should ensure that at least one satellite solar panel, oops, if we go this way, there we go, and hold it just there. I'll spin around so it's a little easier for me to control and I know which way is up. There we go. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to head towards our apoapsis, and I'm going to keep an eye on this here when we go. So I'm going to slowly bring up the time warp. Obviously we've got 5 hours to our apoapsis, so we're going to have to just bring up, and I'm going to keep an eye out, see if during the time warp it starts showing any weird items coming up on the screen. See, our height is fine, that seems to be okay. Going up to what are we up to, is that 50 or 90? 50 warp seems to be okay. Still charging, battery's okay. 100, 1000. Now this is roughly where it started giving problems, I think, before. Oh, did we just go around? I think we went too far now. Right, we're gonna have to hold it. If I push this too much. Whoa! Whoa! That went round. That time warp went round a lot quicker than expected. Okay, let's do it from. We're going to keep an eye on it again this time. Right, let's get this time warp up, and let's not go quite so much. So 1,000 is good enough. Going to 10,000, the timer just went a little too quickly. So this isn't too bad actually. It's only about 30 seconds. At least I'll have a chance at getting it correct this time. 1 hour. Right, mashing that button. Bring it back. We'll go a little bit on and get to about a minute to go. See how that is from there. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, so at this marker, what we want to do is we want to affect our periapsis. We want to bring our periapsis up to about that same 9,000 point. So what we're going to do is effectively do a retrograde burn. So let's go and find our retrograde marker. Sorry, our prograde burn. By doing a prograde here, we effectively affect our periapsis, so the height of the periapsis. Now also I want to head a little towards our radial normal. Yep. So head a little down. That might just reduce our apoapsis at the same time. So I'm just going to go slightly underneath, or here in this case above the retrograde. Right, let's give this a small burn just to make sure we're heading in the right direction. So our periapsis is now heading up quite nicely, but I want to just go this way a little bit just to excellent. Our angle is quite steady, so that's actually affecting our angle quite a lot. So let's stop that one there. That's our angle is fine there, our inclination angle. So let's just go a little bit that way just to verify. Right, our periapsis is moving up quite nicely now, just doing it a little bit at a time, not too fast. Unfortunately our inclination is getting modified on this, so let's just try and bring that back. There we go. So this would be a similar sort of burn we'd have to do if we were going for mun, although obviously on here we're not going for the mun. I'm only using a very low throttle so I can control all of the other angles to make sure that we're not doing anything too wrong. So I want to get this to roughly 9,380 roughly. Right, now this is where I've got to just do taps. Have we actually managed that? I think we have successfully deployed our satellite into polar orbit around Kerbin. It has accepted those as being valid markers. Oh yes, excellent. So this is now, we're just going to make sure that it stays in sunlight by effectively, I think that would be fine. We'll turn off the SAS. That would now effectively rotate and stay in orbit around that point. We'll just bring the satellites, the solar panels up. There we go. Turn on stabilization there. So that would always give it a couple of panels providing power to this from now on. Okay, we have successfully completed a polar satellite orbit. Excellent. So the level of what should we say, the range requirement wasn't as much as expected, which is good. We just have to keep it within a certain time frame. Now obviously here we could just bring this satellite back again. We've put the satellite there, we could now just come back because we've got the thing, but we'll leave that in there. That's a marker for one of our satellites. So that is going to be the satellite HO I. Now can we rename this? We might be able to rename it in the launch center. So okay, let's go back to Space Center. Successful satellite launch. Oh yeah. And also we had a look at how to do a polar change to our orbit, so that was also really good. So if we now go to our tracking center, oh, we have another one here. That's it. I don't think that's ours though, that's someone else's. So if I click on that, can I right, that debris, can I recover? Yep. That one is the previous one, debris. This one here, can I rename? Is there a way to rename? Okay, well it's going to be called HO1, so the next time we do one we're going to have to call it HO2. Quite simply, that's our HO1. Okay, back. Let's have a look at what we now have under contracts. See if we're back down to doing some tourists again, which could be, because we are having to set down to get this science. We still need a little bit more science before we can start doing some of these travels around Mun, but what we have proven is that we can do a big change in our orbits to be able to get out to Mun or these other areas. Right, so position a satellite in an equatorial orbit, so we could do a similar sort of thing, which is another high orbit, but this time equatorial. So that's, we could do that one. That's another quick little bit of money. We've got an explore the Mun. We achieve orbit, which is worth a lot of money. So I think we've got to take that one. That's going to be a basic good one. We are going to the Mun anyway. How long have we got to achieve it? See, that one seems to have no expiry, so we can leave that one until we're ready to go to the Mun. There's no point in taking that one until we are ready. We can do that as our part of our unmanned test around the Mun. Now that one, not too worried about. We will most probably take this other satellite one. Itinerary incomplete, orbit around Kerbin. Suborbital and orbital around Kerbin. Now I'm going to take this quickly. I want to test that. I reckon we can do this one in one go, Bobbo, because I reckon if you do a, I just want to test this one out. If we do a orbit, so we're going to take Bobbo on one of our orbital craft. So if we load up our, where are we? Where's one of our orbiters? That's suborbit. Is it a K2 launchers? I think it's a K2. Let's load up a K2. Right, we're going to do a simplified version of the K2. We don't need a K2. We can do this with a K1. Have we got a K1? We haven't created a K1 yet. Okay, we're going to create something else. See, what I want to do is cancel. Is create one which is just for the person we got here. No, in fact, no. We are going to do something else. Okay, we're going to do a combined item here. Now we have all the science and everything on here, which is great. We're going to put this into a polar orbit, like we just did, but we're going to try and land the pod on the pole so we can get lots of science. So that's going to be our job on this one, and we're going to take Bobbo along. Where's Bobbo? We're going to take Bobbo. And the other bit we're going to try and do here is during the launch we should be suborbital, which would basically fulfill that contract part, and then we go into orbit, which fulfills that part of the contract, and then finally we obviously land and get our science. So now we're going to try and do all this science and a polar change. So we're going to do a polar orbit for Bobbo here, and as I say, try and land on the orbit. I've got a potential idea of how to get this done, so let's go to our launch window first. So we'll go standard into a launch on a northerly polar orbit, as we did with the satellite launch we just did. Right, power is on the liquid fuel for initial. Right, okay, Bobbo, are you ready for a launch of your lifetime? Yes, you ready to do this? Let's get our map ready so that we can see this taking off, and we can estimate our what's the right word I'm looking for? Our orbit. We can see it developing. Right, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. So we're going to go 5,000 feet straight up. I think that's our limit. So straight up in the first part. Make sure that we obtain speed and there's no problem. 1,000. Going up quite nicely. Getting a bit of speed, pulling down the liquid fuel. Going to go now to a 10-degree northerly aspect, hopefully. There we go, 10 degrees. Go into orbit mode on our thing. Let's try and keep that 10 degree. At 10,000 feet, we'll go to 20 degrees. Whoops, forgot to enable, right, 10 degree, going to 10,000. A little bit low on the speed, went a little bit too down with the thing, so now we're at 20 degree. There we are. That stage is gone, going full on the liquid for the next one. Coming up to 20,000 feet where we'll go a 45 degree. Going to bring this over this way a little bit, just to bring our prograde marker over the pole. Right, going to 45 degrees. 45 degrees. What's our apoapsis? 35k, so we're okay on that. If we look at our itinerary for Bobbo, we can see if we get that tick on the suborbital flight. Once that goes above 60,000, and we're going to give ourselves about an 80,000. We'll hold it at 80k on our apoapsis. $59, 60, 63, 64. We're getting there. I'm steadily pulling down on our retrograde. We're into 73, 75, 76, 77, 80. Right, holding it there on an 80k apoapsis. That's fine. Let's have a look on our orbit at the moment. That needs to go that way a little bit. Should bring us over some polar area, which is fine. So he's on a suborbital flight at this moment. Just bringing the nose down, so we're going to be pointing roughly at the horizon, I think, for this next burn, to put us into an 8,000 orbit. So our suborbital flight, because we've now achieved 70,000, it's ticked that box, even though we're not actually gonna go suborbital. Right, we're going to pull this over here just so that it will pull our orbit back in. 40 seconds. Now we need to go orbital, so we're going to give a burn just off our prograde to get our periapsis up to about 80k as well. Are we ready? Burning. This may use all of this final stage. Which is fine, that's sort of what we're looking at. Keeping on the prograde marker. Stage is almost complete. And is on a periapsis, so it will go into launching the next area. So that debris will go into come back to Kerbin. Right, coming up on our next part here. We're going a little high now because our burn has taken a little longer than expected. We're going a little elliptical now. Just get this to 75k, I think, and then we'll hold that there. In fact, let's just put this down. We are now orbital. So we are actually orbital. Okay, so now if we want to land on the pole, now what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our, first of all we need to get our periapsis over the pole first of all. Now the best place to do that is at our apoapsis. The best way to move the periapsis is to either give it a prograde or a retrograde at the apoapsis. Now if my calculations are correct, if you do, let's just test this, I just want to test one thing. Let's just make sure if I go at my prograde and I give a small burn here, yes, okay, that's heading on the apoapsis. I need to head towards my retrograde to bring down the apoapsis to a similar level. So we're slightly more, so if I go slightly up there, just a little burn, bring this in a little bit, just make sure what fuel we've got. Yep, we've got plenty of fuel at this time to perform this maneuver. We can see our periapsis is also moving as part of the retrograde burn here on the periapsis, because we're slowing our position compared to the periapsis. So that's fine. Let's see if we can get our periapsis over there. Our periapsis is now 60. Now what I'd noticed is people had said is you've got to get to about 90 degrees, the 0 point at 90 degrees to, right, we're going to do the rest of the apoapsis, 90 degrees to your landing point. Okay, that's a little too much. We're now going to go into the atmosphere, so I'm going to just burn away just a little bit, just to bring that so we don't hit atmosphere. Okay, that should be fine. We're heading now towards our it'd be so much easier if I had maneuver nodes. So we're heading over there quite nicely. Now what we need, we've got two ways I think of doing this. One is get our periapsis over the top of it at about 40k, just before it, and that will drop us in. That's one way of doing it at these low orbits, and I think I might go for that. So if we get 40k around about there on our periapsis, we should be fine. So let's quickly, first of all, get to the just give it a little bit of time warp to get to our apoapsis. There we go. Right, 15 seconds. Okay, a little bit high. Right, okay. Now what we need to do is first of all get our periapsis down to about 40. So if we just burn retrograde, our periapsis is coming down quite nicely now. You can see that. So we're going to go for the 40,000k move, but it's not moving relative to us. So let's just do a little bit above here and see if that will move it around. Yep, that's moving. See how it's moving it around a bit? Okay, I think that's more than enough. Actually, looking at that, I think we might just end up coming in slightly the wrong place. Okay, let's see if we can. What we need to do is, if I burn this way just a little bit, let's see if we can get that periapsis to just, no, that's obviously not going the way I expected. Let's go this way, slightly towards, halfway towards our retrograde. Prograde, that's there. Get that periapsis over the top of the pole. So I'm moving it around. Okay, that's over the pole, just on the edge of that polar area now. So now if we just go retrograde, the right marker and bring that down to about 40k. Oh, it's a little not quite what I think. Let's go down this way, just get it over that marker just a little bit more. So slightly retrograde that way, 40k. Okay, so that's 40k on the edge of that polar region. So we're going to see what that does for us. Okay, so that will bring us into orbit, and into surface. And here we have a southern pole. Let's just get some goo over here. No, nothing to get here. Let's see, what is our... It's saying we are over water. Okay, we're over water still at the moment. Let's just let it go over something else. Ice caps. So we're in ice cap now. So let's just go here, observe goo, see if we get anything else. Nope. Okay, temperature. Nothing to get on either of those. Okay, so we're going to wait until we land. Okay, what we will do, we're heading in the right direction. I'm gonna, once we're close to, actually we're just gonna launch our separator now. Separate that out, it will just be slightly ahead of us, but that's okay. Our periapsis height is 39, but going down, which is fine. So we're gonna keep an eye on this as we come in. Where are we at the moment? We are here. So I want to see if this idea of putting it at 40k over at the opposite side is correct or not. Now we've got no control now. This is purely going to be as it comes through. So let's just see how this periapsis reduces as we get closer. Obviously we need to, once we start hitting atmosphere, we'll start getting friction, and at that point we'll start to, the periapsis will start to go even lower. Okay, I think we're hitting the atmosphere. If we go here, let's have a look which way are we going. Let's head, if we head that, point it in that direction, we should be, I'm going to take off the stabilization, shouldn't need that now, we should be coming in quite nicely. Okay, coming in, warping in. Our periapsis height is still at 39, so we're holding that height at the moment. Over this water area, so we're coming over the water quite nicely. And make sure the heat shield is going to be, whoops, it's not a good thing to do. Let's just put a bit of stabilization, there we go. Make sure the heat shield is ready to show. 62, our periapsis is starting to go down now, which would suggest we are getting into atmosphere and getting some atmospherics. See, our periapsis is still there, it's now over the pole, it's moving away. Let's just see if it comes down adequately. Let's just give it a bit of time warp. Our periapsis is now moving ahead. Let's see if it comes back, but I'm expecting it to come back again sharply. See how far away we are. Okay, not too bad. We're flying high over water. We might be able to get some bits and pieces here now. Okay, so you can see the temperature markers now. Whoops, let's take this off here. I need to get the heat shield pointing in the right direction here. Head towards the prograde marker. There we go. Right, so we've got a few heat symbols on, looks like thermometers. Let's see if we can get that. No. Let's see if we can get them turned away. It might even be the other markers. We're getting a bit of heat on here. So because of that, I'm not going to speed it up. Let's see how our items go. Now you can see actually the 0 point now is actually on land and moving back towards that pole. So we might be okay. We might be okay. Let's see how this, see where we actually end up. Right, we're still getting some heat markers. I'll turn them off for the moment, because they're well within allowable area. Let's just observe our mystery goose, see if we can get something different here. No, still nothing new at this point. So it could be heat they've added in. Let's see where we've got. Our temperatures are okay. We've got one mystery goo. That's because of that. Let's see if we can just line this up a little bit. Is that a bit better? That seems to be okay. We're getting a bit of temperature here. We're a little short now. We look like we're our 40k, we had it set about here. Looks like we're not gonna land where we expected. Okay, so but we'll use this as a marker. We'll see where we do actually end up. turn off this SAS so it goes normally, it just levels itself out. Because that looks like it's that way a little bit. Just let itself aerodynamically sort itself out. Yeah. There we go. Yes, it's sorting itself out a little bit. A little bit of potentially this new patch has meant that all these sort of things are maybe more important to get right. Potentially. Right, let's just put that on the. Let's sort itself out. See if it will aerodynamically sort itself out. It seems to be. Which is good. Which is good. I can't remember getting those. Heat markers before. Now maybe it's just the angle I was coming in there or something, but I don't remember getting those heat markers previously. Now okay, we've missed where we wanted, and we're going to check the angle. So okay, it looks like it's about, I went the wrong way, we're about, what was that, about 10-15 degrees out from where I was hoping. Okay, we'll do that on another run then. We'll give it another go. Will not be beaten. Now this is part of testing, so our atmospheric, I obviously went too far the wrong side of the target. I obviously underestimated the amount of drag that would be applied. Or my marker needs to be not 40, maybe I need to up the marker point. We'll have a check on that. So this time we've landed there. We can use this as a marker point to test by moving our periapsis and apoapsis. I'm sure there is, someone's got a nice, we put the items out. I'm sure we've got all of the sensors from here. Yeah, nothing there. We'll just do this as well, just to observe, just to make sure. We'll take that if nothing else comes up. Oh, we haven't had this one, flying over the highlands. Okay, so that's, we've got one item of information. That's good. So it looks like maybe one goo container got a little hot there. That looks a little warm. A bit of temperature overlay, that's not showing anything. So one of our goo containers got a little warm on that re-entry, but it's still operational, I think. Yeah, we'll try mystery goo when we land, but I'm pretty sure we've got mystery goo from being on the highlands here. Well, the other thing we can do is review the data here. We've got 3.8 science. If you use an engineer, you can get more science. Sorry, an engineer, a scientist. A scientist will give you more science points. The other thing they have done is they've increased the point where the chutes change from a drogue chute to a fully open. I think that was another change that went through. Right, we'll just land this. Very nice. Oh, just tipped over. Okay, we'll just do a goo, just see in case we haven't had goo here. Oh, we haven't had goo here. Okay, and that one already had, so let's try from this side. Log temperature. Oh, we got some temperature data here as well, which may also mean we. Do I do a reset on this? Let's try. That was a flying over. Okay, let's recycle that. Let's just do a observe materials in case I hadn't had highlands before. Oh, we hadn't. 7.5. So I think if I use the scientist, this would get closer to the 10 points. I'm sort of guessing. Not sure on that. Okay, so we've got some science. We have another completed contract quickly. Let's just go through here. Make sure that they all went okay. Make sure our guys get back. So some science. We're up to 59 sites, although we want, I think we're looking for 90 points of science. Now, one thing I might do, we're at 251, which is good on our funds. We will recover that and recover that. That got us a little bit back. Let's just make sure we've got nothing else that can be recovered quickly. K3 launcher debris, can we recover? We can't recover that. That should actually, I think that particular item should come into at some point. Yes, his altitude's at 49, which means he is actually coming into our area. Okay, we will come back here. We've got 4 contracts which have been sorted out, so let's go and have a look at those just to go through. Ferrio's VIP, that was one of the ones we did. Bobbo's travel, excellent. That was his orbit and his suborbital flight. Okay, that was excellent. So we fulfilled that contract. So we can fulfill a tourist orbit contract in one go. So there's no need for these multiple flights if their job is to just orbit and a suborbital. We can do it all in one go. That also means that if we just go to our contracts, if we look at, say, not that one, right, this is one of these destination ones, which is, here's another one. So Bobley's is a orbit around Kerbin and a flyby Minmus and a suborbital. Now take it, so as an example here, if we took off, did a suborbital, doing a first orbit of Kerbin, or getting into that orbital area, fulfills both of those at the first time. So during launch we would fulfill the suborbital, during completion we do the Kerbin, and then if we set ourselves on a flyby of Minmus, we would also fulfill the Minmus requirement. Same here, we'd effectively be going into orbit before we did a flyby Mun. So all of these, Minmus, flyby Mun, so we've got 2 for Minmus, flyby Mun, orbit. So yes, we can, now looking at these, we can reduce the number of flights required. It doesn't have to be in an individual flight, it can all be in one flight, which is good. Helpful. Certainly a big reduction, and it means we can get some of these money once we can work out our proper areas. Oh, I cancelled that contract. Oh, what did I done? Oh, bugger. Didn't want to do that. Okay, let's see what else we've got. We'll have to replace that. I keep on doing that, which is annoying. So let's see how many we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can have 7, so we can get 2 more contracts. Let's replace that one then. We've got this itinerary here, orbit and Minmus. I think that was a 4-person one, so we'll take this one. That's a landing on Mun, which we will wait, and it has no time. And this is perform visual surveys of Kerbin, which I'm not interested in doing those because they're all for aircraft. I'm more interested in doing some of these long distance probes. Okay. That's a Mun around space, and that's a surface around there, which gives us some science points. So it gives us 6 science points. So these do give us science points at the same time, which is handy. So okay, we've got one more satellite to put into orbit here, which is a potential quick money maker, so I'm going to take that one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which gives us that. And then I think what we're going to do I have to stop hitting that button on that contract. So what I want to do is upgrade this if I can, because one thing we can't do at the moment is maneuver nodes. Now maneuver nodes are going to be extremely important when we start looking at intercepting Mun and Minmus. So, and to do that, if I upgrade, we get patch conics visible in the map, which also means if I go to here, if we right click on there, tracking upgrade required for flight planning. Yes, so this is the bit we're after, is the flight planning. So if I first of all upgrade this one, this center, and it has its it's got its dishes, which we might be able to get some more science from in our car, but we'll check that at a later stage. We should now be able to plan our maneuvers a little bit better. But okay, that's the end of this one for now. We've done a fair bit in this one. We put that satellite up and we completed a tourist orbit, so we'll call it on that one. So hopefully that's enjoyable. You can see the sort of mistakes that's easy to make, and maybe what's happening, the new patch is a little bit more finicky, so maybe we've got to keep an eye on things. But until next time, please click that like button. Lets me know people are actually watching the videos. Until next time, have fun.